I'm Elle Embers, and this is Cosmic Curiosities. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Cosmic Curiosities. My name is Elle, and if you would like to work with me in bridging that connection between your soul and you with past life regression, cosmic channeling, or energetic coaching, you can send me a message on Instagram at l.embers or visit my website, lembers.com. Today's episode, I'm so excited to be joined by the lovely Jess. And before we get started, Jess, would you like to give everyone a little bit of an introduction and let them know what it is that you do?
Sure thing, and thank you, Elle, so much for having me on. And in case we haven't met yet, I'm Jess X Goh, and I'm the sole founder of Life and Confidence. So what I do is I help burnt out, heart-centered professionals all over the world to overcome the impacts of childhood abuse and to successfully reduce the anxiety, anger, grief, and shame drug-free.
Amazing. Drug-free especially. I think that's a good point to make there.
Yes, that's right. There's a blend of different healing modalities. I work more in the holistic alternative side of things, where people have tried clinical therapy or self-development or plant medicine or spirituality, and it's just not enough for them to shift the trauma. So that's when I come in.
And I hear that you have quite a few modalities under your belt.
Yes.
But one that really piqued my interest was the star magic. And I feel like that is something that not many people know about, or they might confuse a little bit with astrology. So would you like to share a little bit more about that with us?
Yes, definitely. So with star magic, this is a healing modality that I've been trained by a mentor of mine. And we work with the frequencies of the different star systems. And yes, we work with the frequencies of the star signs as well, but it's not about predicting your year ahead through the birth natal chart of your astrology. It's not like that. It's about calling in different star systems to support the healing of the client.
Wow. So we're really kind of diving into different universes, different star systems, and everything, kind of pulling the magic from there.
Everything cosmic, just like your podcast.
That is such a good reference as well. So I love it. I love it. So what are people usually coming to you about when they're requesting star magic? Is this something that people generally seek out, or is this something that kind of pops up for them depending on what their journey presents?
Yes, that's a great question. So people wouldn't reach out to me for the star magic modality because so many people don't know what it is. What people reach out to me is how can I help them resolve their problems? And that is first and foremost their traumas that they've experienced through abusive relationships, dysfunctional family dynamics, their traumatic upbringing. And so I use star magic to help balance out their frequencies, their energy, and raise their consciousness, because it's very easy to get into the shadow work when it comes to trauma. But what I found with my personal experiences in that is that I kept recycling my past over and over again. And I wasn't able to leave the session feeling good about myself. In fact, I felt worse. And I thought, when is this going to end? And when I started explore energetic healing, star magic, quantum healing, that has brought the healing of my clients to the next level. So I'm really grateful for this healing modality because it allowed me to help remove entities, to close down portals in the home where entities are coming through, to look in their chakras and their organs where there's blockages and clear that by calling in my guides, speaking light language, to start working in their quantum field. So these are just examples of where I would use star magic with a client, and also healing different versions of their inner child that is causing a havoc in their present life and past life trauma as well as ancestral trauma.
So what kind of led you to this path of, well, one, wanting to help people through their problems and their trauma, but two, stepping into more of that quantum cosmic healing, aside from just focusing on the, I guess, the therapeutic methods of trauma release?
So the way I got started out in working with my clients is my personal experiences of trauma. There's no way that I could help my clients overcome their problems if I wasn't able to overcome my problems. So I wouldn't be the best coach, mentor, healer for them if I haven't successfully done that myself. So people come to me because they resonate with my story of experiencing a traumatic childhood. I'm first generation Australian, but my parents are Chinese Malaysian. And so there's a cultural clash and belief systems, the way I was raised in this country in a Western culture, and how their influences and their beliefs are trying to force me to be a certain way when it's very difficult to do so when you're in a Western culture, when you're brought up in a Western culture. And so I've experienced a lot of domestic violence in my family dynamic. I was sexually abused by my uncle throughout my teenage years, and I felt so disgusted with my body. I felt like being a female is so weak. Why was I born into this gender? Why couldn't I be a male? And especially in the Asian culture, they value the male sex because they can pass down the family name.
Mm.
And there was a lot of pain in that family dynamic that I've taken on, and it was a very destabilizing environment. I didn't feel supported emotionally, physically, and I had to grow up very fast. And so in my early 20s, I had to find a job, any job that I could get to financially support my mother, pay for the mortgage that my dad didn't want to pay, and to pay for the bills.
Mm.
So I felt like I was obligated to help her, to rescue her, because she was crying in front of me, telling me that your father doesn't want to pay for the mortgage anymore. And so, being the eldest and not being successful academically, I never went to uni. I had a really bad score. And that was because I didn't feel safe to learn and study at home and to do well. And I lacked a lot of self esteem and belief and direction in my life. And so that has led me to a series of toxic relationships to then lead me to a crisis in my life at 29, where I lost everything, including my mind. And I had no choice but to surrender and to wake up to myself and to realize that, Jess, you need to take personal responsibility for the reality you've created and stop blaming others for your pain. And that's when I realized I could choose to go down this rabbit hole of my pain and be homeless and broke, or I could do something about it. And so, fast forwarding now, going through 10 years of self development and spirituality and energetic healing, I'm at a place right now where I am serving people to help them overcome their traumas like I have. And that has allowed me to share the wisdom that I've gained through my own journey and where I am now, where I have successfully transformed my relationship with my mother, and to be running my practice full time, serving clients all over the world online and face to face. And I'm really proud where I am today. And so, touching your second point, how I got into the quantum galactic sort of healing, that was a journey within itself. That's not something that I was ready to dive in to the deep end. I had to focus on letting go of my traumatic past and the anger and hatred and shame that I was holding on to before I could even get to that point. So for me, I had to learn to let go of my pain and recognize that trauma isn't my identity. And when I was able to let it go, layers of it, then I was drawn to start working on my feminine. And that was through Kundalini, energetic healing, right, like Reiki, as well as seeking a female embodiment mentor who specializes in quantum. And then I became trained in the galactic field. And the reason why I was drawn to that side of spirituality, the galactic side, is because my soul was ready to receive this medicine. And I was ready as a healer, a mentor, and a coach to share this with my clients and with the world. I did have a resistance in speaking light language, and I did have a resistance sharing that because I had a belief that I was holding on to. People might think I'm weird or crazy or I'm too woo woo. Like, how would that make sense to a logical mind, especially being conditioned in the matrix? So that's my journey with that.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, you have been through a whirlwind just alone in your life, and then as well as a practitioner. That's amazing. I very much resonate with people thinking you're a weirdo, like getting into the
Yes.
quantum, getting into the cosmic. I was a medium since I was 4, so it's been full on, and a lot of the time you feel like you have to repress who you are so that you are accepted by society. And it can be really traumatizing and really damaging to your mental health and to your self-esteem that people don't realize. So I love that you're bringing awareness to this and that you're helping guide other people through it. So thank you.
My pleasure. And, I have to say that I think it's incredible that you've had a strong realization of your gifts at such a young age. And I can only imagine how hard that would have been for you to realize these gifts at such a young age. And other children or teachers or your parents wouldn't really be supportive or understanding of that. They might think, whoa, is she like living in La La Land? Is she crazy? So thank you so much for sharing that as well. For those who feel they're weird or the odd one when they're not. And we're not the weird ones, they are.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like we all have spiritual abilities of some kind, and it just depends where we lean more than others. And I mean, to be honest, there was a huge number of years in my life where I was scared to tell people, and I was told don't tell people like this stuff because you'll end up in a padded room somewhere. And so, it became very fear-based. And so it took a lot of journeying and healing to come through to the other side and be like, okay, well, you know what? I'm not crazy. I'm not insane. I'm totally normal. And I just have this selectability that's a little bit stronger than somebody else. So that's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to hide. It's nothing to run away from. So I feel like if you do find yourself in that position where you are scared of embracing those things, that's okay too. Like, you will get there in your own time, but that's why there are people like us that are here to support you through that. So
And thank you, Elle, for being a beautiful leader and guide for your followers and audience and listeners to really share that light of yours.
Aw, thank you. I appreciate that. So when journeying into quantum stuff and star magic and things like that, you did talk a fair bit about your acceptance around light language. So for people that don't really understand what that is or know what it is, can you tell us a little bit about what light language is, what it represents, and what it's kind of used for?
Yes, definitely. So, what light language is, it is the language of the soul. And the language of the soul comes from the soul star. So, each and every one of us, it's up to you if you want to believe it or not, you can take it with a grain of salt, is that each of our souls have come from a star. We have relived many past lives, whether it's in this human form or whether it's in the galactic form, but we all originated from the stars. And so our soul holds a certain frequency from the stars. And this is how we can create and manifest miracles in this humanly experience, is because through this soul frequency. And so when we speak light language, and anyone can get activated, anyone can speak light language. It's just a matter of when you're ready to be activated, and you start speaking whatever you feel you need to say. It doesn't have to be a certain way. It's unique to every single soul. Some people can speak specifically the language of a certain star system, such as the Sirius star. So when you look at the star constellation, Sirius is known as the dog because it's shaped like the dog with the different star clusters.
Mm-hmm.
And so when certain people who can speak light language and they can tune in with the Sirius star system, they can speak Sirian. Others can speak Pleiadian from the Pleiades star, and that's a lighter and higher frequency. And some people can speak Orion from the Orion star constellations, or Lyra from the Lyra star constellation. So every star system has a different frequency. Our soul has a unique frequency. And when we learn how to speak light language, we can use it for the purposes of dissolving emotional and energetic blockages in our current timeline, our future timeline, our past lives, our karmic lineage and ancestral lineage, to break away from that in the quantum. And so we can start shifting trauma on the quantum level. So that's how we can start harnessing and cultivating light language. If you want to be activated or you're curious how to speak it, what I would recommend is just to keep listening to light language. You can listen to different types of light language. There's heaps of them on YouTube where people are speaking it out there. And you might think, oh, this sounds like Thai or Japanese or Arabic. So everyone speaks it in a different way, but it's not about the words that they say, it's the frequency. So tune into the frequency of that light language and see what shows up for you. See if there's a shift in your being, or if you feel there's an emotional release. You might not feel anything at all, and that's okay. That's normal too.
So, just to touch base on the different star systems and the different frequencies that come with those star systems, am I right in assuming that each soul is different? So each language that they speak is going to be different, but the frequency will match? Is that kind of how we know what's Sirian and what's Palladian and so on and so on?
I guess to clarify that, for example, with myself, the way I speak light language, I just tune in with what I feel called to share.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because it's tuned in from the Sirius star system or the Pleiades star system. It's not because of that. But there are some people out there who can specifically speak the Sirian light language. And they're tuning in from the Sirius star because they must have some form of really strong connection to that star system, or their soul must have been reincarnated from that star system. So there's this strong bond or connection so they can speak it. Whereas with me, I cannot speak that at all. I just don't feel that connection. So I hope that makes sense. And different star systems have different healing abilities.
Yeah, okay. So do you mind running us through a little bit about the different healing abilities of those star systems?
Yeah, sure. So just to keep it very simple. So for example, a lot of us are becoming aware that there are star seeds and that there are different stars out there where we came from, or that maybe there's star beings that we interact with. And so the common stars that we hear are the Pleiades, Sirians, Lyra, Orion. These are the common ones that we hear. Acturians from the Actuary star. So these are the common ones that we hear. There's heaps more than that. It's just that this is more mainstream in spirituality. And so, for example, the Acturians, they're very known for architecture and structure. So they're one of the star beings that has helped in building the pyramids. There's no way that human beings can have created that, because the weight of the pyramid, the material itself, is so heavy. So they would have definitely need support and guidance from a star being that has helped them create the pyramid. And the pyramid represents the temple, such as our body when we meditate. And that was the whole point of creating the pyramids. The star beings wanted us to have the pyramids on planet Earth to connect and communicate with other star systems. That was the purpose of the pyramid. And that is the same purpose with our body. Our body is the temple, just like the pyramid. So when we close our eyes and tune in and meditate, we can tune into the quantum. We use it as a way to teleport ourselves into time and space, or we communicate with the different star beings. So that's how the Acturians support us is structure and architecture. So the Pleiadians, they're here to support with psychic surgery. So if you've got health issues, ailments, injuries, the Pleiadians can come through and perform a psychic surgery to support the healing of the client who has chronic issues. So that's where the Pleiades come through, and they have a beautiful, light, gentle energy about them. They're like a really high frequency. Then you have Syrians, and they have more of a masculine energy, and they're very intelligent beings, very emotionally wise. And so we use them to help us to tune into our emotional maturity on our spiritual path, and to be supported and feel safe in the masculine frequencies. Whereas Orion, a lot of people think that Orion is quite masculine because of the star beings living in the Orion constellation. But when you tune into the frequency of Orion, it's actually quite feminine. And so the Orion star frequency, I'm not talking about the species, I'm talking about the frequency, is actually quite feminine. And it's a home to a lot of different star species because, like, for example, with Lyra, the star Lyra, it was destroyed. And so all of these beings were forced, like the Lyrians were forced to find a home. And that's when Orion became a home to a lot of species.
Well, they had no other choice, right? It's like, that's
Yes.
what we can do. That's what we can do.
That's right. It's just like with the war with Russia and Ukraine. And so the Ukrainians have no choice but to go overseas to different countries, even though they don't want to, but they had to, and they prefer to live in their country because that's what they know. But and that's exactly how it is. It's that galactic war. And so it's the same concept, what we're experiencing on planet Earth.
So I guess with the frequencies of the star systems and everything, coming back to star magic, is that sort of what you're drawing from, is the frequencies, not so much the beings?
That's correct. It's the frequencies. We can call in the beings, but however, we have to be cautious about that too, because we might think a certain species, a certain star race is bad or good, but that's just like with humanity. There's bad and good with any race and culture.
Yeah.
So we have to be very cautious what sort of beings we're calling in, because we can call in anything, good or bad. So that's why it's better to call in the frequencies. When you're a facilitator and a practitioner of star magic or quantum healing, galactic healing, you would know how to trust your internal guidance to tune in when you're calling into a being into the space and screening them if they're actually genuine or not. So what I would recommend for the listeners who are not a facilitator and practitioner of these modalities is just to tune into the frequency. And I remember you were pointing about astrology. We can also work with the different star signs that's in the stars. So we can call in, for example, the constellation of Virgo to help infuse frequencies in the digestive system, because Virgo tend to have issues with the gut. So we need to call in the Virgo frequencies to support that. Or, for example, with the star sign Taurus, they tend to have throat problems. And so if a client has some throat problems, we can call in the Taurus star system, the Taurian star system frequencies to help with that blockage. But on top of that, we can't just rely on the star frequencies. We also have to look into the root cause of the blockage as well. That's more important than anything else. Calling in the frequencies is just the modality, but what's more important is to understand and identify what is the root cause of the problem.
Yeah, so it's not to say that, every Virgo has stomach problems, but it's that we can use this as a tool to help if someone does. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And when it comes down to, I guess, the capabilities of what certain star systems are capable of, is there limitations around that? Are there certain things that they're not allowed to touch? Are there certain things that they are more known for? Or is it just whatever the client is needing, they're matched with a certain frequency?
That's a really great question. When it comes to the quantum field, there is no limit to how a person can heal. It's just trusting your intuition or spirit guidance to show you what the client needs, and then you can call in the frequencies according to what they need. So it's not just relying on one star system or one star sign to do everything. We need to call in different star frequencies, different star signs, or use different healing modalities as well to blend it in to support and accelerate the healing process for the client.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, what do you usually pair together with your star magic to help along healing journeys?
What I do is, because I focus on trauma, particularly childhood trauma. So if it's face to face, I use a variety of different processes, such as core and bioenergetics and body work, to get the client to be in their body before they go into the emotional and energetic work to release the trauma. If we start releasing trauma energetically and emotionally without getting grounded in their body, it's going to be very difficult for you to help them or guide them to get the trauma out. There's going to be a massive resistance for them to be vulnerable in their healing process. So it's very important to get them grounded and to be in their body first. For those who I work online, I would get them to do activities in their self-care to stay grounded, such as spending time in nature, and core and bioenergetics exercises to be in their body to prepare them for the session. Or sometimes I might have to ground them on the session, depending where they're at. Then I would move them into the emotional work. And this is where I would use character analysis to pinpoint where they hold the trauma, at what age, how it forms their coping mechanisms and their personality. And then I would use core energetics and bioenergetics to release the trauma, and I would guide them into a process how they can release the anger, how they can release the grief, the shame, the anxiety, the fear. And once they were able to purge that out, then I would balance them out with star magic, with high frequencies, with light language, or through a guided quantum meditation where they rebalance the past traumatic memory and create a different memory with their family dynamic or with their ancestors. So then they can leave the session or the workshop feeling balanced, whole, and complete.
Yeah, so kind of like reprogramming that memory into being a less traumatic one. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so it's about getting them to see their past from a different perspective. Because if I'm not guiding them into a process where they're not able to see it from a different perspective, they're going to keep associating their trauma as their identity. It's about guiding them in a way where they can see their past traumatic memory from a place of unconditional love, and how we can use unconditional love as a tool to shift the energy, the emotions, the dynamic of that past traumatic memory. So then they can start to see it from a high perspective and feel that memory differently as well.
Yeah, so it kind of no longer becomes a trigger then, because they have a whole different perspective and a whole different visualization of what it was, what it is, what happened, how it affects them.
Yes, that's right.
Well, that's amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
So, in coming to terms with trauma, I know a lot of people, especially in the spiritual space, we tend to get into this mentality of like, I've dealt with that trauma, that no longer is my problem. But a lot of the time, we only just kind of scratch that first layer. And then there's so much more that we need to uncover and so much more that we need to process in order to fully deal with it so that it no longer becomes a trigger. But so many people are often proud. And, we don't want to admit that we have all these other problems and all these other traumatic things that are still affecting us. So do you often find that with your clients that come through, they don't always believe that they still have trauma and there's kind of trauma that you have to rediscover? Or is it someone who's kind of a bit further in their journey and they've come to that acceptance and they want to work through it?
That's a really great question. I attract different people at different timelines of their journey. So there are people who are starting out and they've tried clinical therapy and they know it's not working, so they're willing to try something else. So they're just like starting out in their journey, and they are aware they've got some trauma, that they're not feeling good. They started taking antidepressants or anti-anxiety tablets or medication, and they don't want to go down that path, but they kind of feel like that's the only way to cope. I definitely work with clients like that. The other type of people who come and see me is that they have done self-development. They've been on the healing path maybe for a few years, and they just notice that something isn't shifting in their life. Why is it they feel stuck in unworthiness, or they struggle to be in an intimate romantic relationship because their heart is so shut down, they keep people away? So those sort of people are drawn to my work because they want to shift that block inside of them, and they're not able to figure out what it is, and they've tried dealing with other things to help assist with that, but something is still not shifting there. And then there's the other people who have tried different things, and they say that, I have worked on my trauma, but I could see that there is still something there. There is still some anger. It's not as bad as it was before, but there is still some anger there. Or, I've worked with trauma before, but for some reason I still feel blocked. Right. And so when you've pointed out how some people feel very proud of how far they've come in their journey and think that they don't have any trauma, well, the thing is, you need to learn to be very humble in your healing journey, because the healing never ends, and that we're always the student in our journey. If you're always thinking that you're the teacher, you're not going to grow. You're not going to transform. You're not going to take your life to the next level. So it's really important when we are either starting out in our healing journey or further ahead, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, regardless, you still need to be humble, open-minded, and be a student. And that's when the shifts, the transformation, and the miracles will occur from that place of consciousness.
Totally. I 100% agree. And there's so many people that will go through a self-development journey, and, someone that may have started 3 months ago could be so much further in their journey than what someone is that started 12 months ago. It depends on the level of trauma. It depends on the level of work. It depends on, what they're going through, who's assisting them. Are they doing this by themselves? Are they getting support? There's so many other variables there. And I think that as society, we are often so clouded by comparison and judgment and expectation that a lot of the time we are selling ourselves short in what exactly it is that we need and what we need to do to achieve the life and the path that we want in the end, because, we don't want to ask for help, or we don't want to admit that there's something wrong. And so I think just coming into that space of awareness that, we are students and we never stop growing. We never stop learning. We never stop healing. No one's healing is ever done. Even people like us, even people that work in the spiritual industry and we, consider ourselves quote unquote healers, we are still students. We guide you through traumas and processes and everything else, but it's not to say that we aren't still doing that ourselves. So I think there's a big element there. But yeah, that's great.
100%. You said it so perfectly. You have to leave your ego at the door and stop counting how many things and courses and modalities and healers and therapists you've seen. Forget all that. You just got to recognize where you're at right now in your life and where you want to be. You need to focus on the gap where you are right now and where you want to be. Who can help you to fulfill that gap so you can upgrade your identity so that matches with your upgraded reality?
100%. It's bridging the gap, bridging that connection, and finding yourself and who you really want to be.
That's right. And as you've pointed out, like us healers or facilitators in the healing arts, if we want to grow in our practice, our business, and if we want to take it to the next level, we need to take our healing journey to the next level. What is it that we need to upgrade within ourselves to upgrade our business and the level of impact that we're here to be of service to humanity.
Exactly. It's so often, I don't know about you, but I have clients come up to me and they're like, oh, like you still use that tool or you still do that? There's that level of shock. And it's like, well, yeah, like I'm still human. I'm still growing. I'm still going through the same journey that you are. We're just, helping each other out.
100%. Because the clients that we attract are always showing us a version of ourselves that perhaps that requires healing or guidance, or that we've been in that journey and that path before those clients, and we've now gained the wisdom that we've learned from our journey, and we can give that back to those clients who are in need of it. Because I could see some of my clients and I'm like, whoa, I can see what they're going through right now that reminds me of myself 2 years ago or 10 years ago or my inner child. And I'm like, wow, what a beautiful gift. What a great reminder to practice love, compassion, and kindness. What a great reminder to show me, wow, how grateful that I can be for myself, how far I've come in my journey, and what can I do to support them in their journey right now.
100%. I love everything you just said right then.
And also what blockages that I need to shift within myself. So it's been incredibly a beautiful experience to have clients to show us what is it that we need to shift within ourselves, or how can we provide that level of guidance, wisdom, and support where we have been able to overcome it ourselves and to give it back to them. So that's the gift of running a business.
Exactly. Everything is a mirror, right? Everything is self-reflection. Everything is being mirrored back to us in a way that we can learn from. So, and there's nothing more challenging, or there's nothing that's more of a growth or learning process than running a business.
That's right. That's the best personal development tool or course ever, is running your own business. It will challenge you on all levels.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So to dive back into, sorry, I've strayed off topic, but to dive back into star magic and the modalities that you use, and so many clients, thousands of clients have been aided and guided and helped with your assistance. What can you really tell us about the next step? So people are coming through with their trauma and, they're dealing with the trauma, and the star magic is realigning them, and you're using so many other modalities to beautifully blend this into a process. What's the kind of next step after that? Where are they kind of headed, or is it depending on the person and their own individual path?
It's exactly that. So when people come and see me for a clarity call, which is a consultation, I need to figure out why they want to work with me, what's their core issues that they're facing right now that needs to be addressed, and where they want to be in our time together. So I need to create a path where they can get to their outcome. And so it's really important that we start clearing the traumatic blockages, the repressed emotions, the traumatic past. And once we're able to clear the bulk of it, then they can start taking actions towards their outcome, whether it's having an established social circle, or whether it's to progress in their career path, or whether it's to start calling in their beloved, or to just put themselves out there when it comes to the dating game. So for them to get to that level, we need to focus on clearing the trauma first. There's no point of engaging with the external world if our internal world is destabilizing, wobbly, and about to collapse. It just doesn't make sense. That's when we're focusing too much on the mindset work, the NLP, and taking action. And this is why some of these modalities don't work to the full extent, because we're not working with how we can build a strong foundation internally first, as a platform, as a landing platform to then launch ourselves out into the 3D world.
Absolutely. You've got to do that base work. Like if you have a house, right? You want to build a house and you start putting walls up. Your walls are going to be pretty useless and they're going to fall over if you've got no foundation set. And you need to have that foundation. You need to have that canvas to start with by clearing out that trauma so that you can build off it, right?
That's right, 100%.
Yeah, I completely love that. And I resonate with that so much. I mean, so often we are looking at external answers for internal problems, and we're not focusing on what the internal problem is, where the root cause of it is, and we're just hoping that the external thing will fix it. But it might fix the symptom, or it might fix the outside of it, but that problem's going to keep reoccurring because we haven't solved the root cause of it. We don't even know what the root cause of it is half the time because we're so focused on the external.
That's exactly right. And I remember when I started out in property investing in my early 20s, and I created a property portfolio by myself with my own funds, and I did pretty well. I acquired 2 investment properties, positive cash flow at the age of 26.
Wow.
And I was only working as a beauty therapist. So I was earning a very low wage, like probably 38,000 plus super, right? Australian dollars. And I was able to do that very well because I did it from a place of desperation. However, that success didn't last long because even though it looked pretty good externally, but on the inside, I was so stressed out. Oh my God, I have 2 mortgages to pay. I want to pay this off sooner. The rental income is just not enough. How can I increase the rent? And so I was so fixated on how to create wealth and money fast, but I wasn't focusing on dealing with my trauma. And so what happened was I self-sabotaged my wealth, where I sold both of them off. I made a profit. I had 6 figures in my bank account. And then I diminished those 6 figures into just $100 in my bank account because I thought that the fastest way to make money was to launch an online women's business, because back then, fast forward fashion was the thing and the easiest way to make millions. And I lost my wealth because I didn't have a strong foundation within myself to value my self-worth and to be very clear in where I want to go and where I want to be, how I can serve from the heart and not from my egoic deficiencies of the wounded inner child.
Yeah.
So 100%, we need to focus on building that strong foundation with self first.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I love that story because it just goes to show, like, yeah, you can create wealth from a place of lack and a place of scarcity and a place of desperation. But in the long run, it's not going to make you any better off because you're not doing anything internally to secure your external wealth and to, value what you have as a human, let alone what you have as the 3D world, I guess.
100%. And so now I'm 36. Fast forwarding 10 years now, I feel wealthy on the inside. And it's not because I'm a property millionaire, and I'm far from that, but I feel wealthy on the inside because I truly feel and understand what abundance is. And it's not about having a gazillion properties, it's about how you feel on the inside. And I live a very incredible lifestyle now where I live in Bondi Beach in my own place, my own sanctuary, my own apartment, and to run my business full time and to charge the prices that I want to charge, and that there are people out there who's willing to pay a premium for the transformation that I'm offering. And so I'm really grateful that what I've experienced 10 years ago has led me to my path today, operating from the heart.
Absolutely. It's again like having to go through those lessons that really make us who we are. And, you wouldn't be where you are now if you didn't go through that. And not going through that, you wouldn't have learnt that lesson to be who you are today, to help other people, go through that lesson without the level of heartache, I guess, and trauma. Like, we're not adding to the trauma. It's a safe space container that you're able to assist and guide them through.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love that. So, I'm jumping topics all over the place here, but that's okay. That's it's what we are vibing with today. But to jump back into light language that we were talking about previously, I know that light language is such a powerful thing for so many facilitators and so many just humans, but because it does vary from soul to soul, how do people really, I guess, connect and flow with their practitioners or their facilitators with the light language that they're using? Are there ever any cases where, perhaps a client doesn't feel connected or doesn't resonate with their practitioner's light language, that they're not getting the results that are expected? Or is it really, again, more focused on the frequency that they're hearing and not so much about the person or what it is that they're wanting to achieve from it?
So to answer that is that I haven't had that issue with any of my clients because they know in their heart they chose the right mentor. So I've came across a girlfriend who I introduced to another girlfriend, and my girlfriend back then, who was in the US, connected with this other girlfriend that I had in Singapore. And so this girlfriend in Singapore can speak like two different light languages. One's the Syrian and one's the Acturian. So when I listened to it, it didn't bother me at all. I thought it was beautiful, it was heart opening. But my girlfriend in LA didn't like it at all. And it's because she didn't have a connection with my girlfriend in Singapore. She didn't resonate with her vibe. Whereas with me, I didn't mind her. And so it's really important that if you're receiving light language, you need to resonate with that person's energy, their vibe, the personality. There's no point of receiving the light language if you don't resonate. Otherwise, you're just going to resist it. You're not going to value it. So even if things are free on YouTube, pick wisely. Even though it's free doesn't mean it's good. Tune into your intuition, your spirit guidance to see if this is what I need right now, or do I feel drawn to listen to this light language? So just trust your internal guidance with that.
Because I do wonder sometimes about different practitioners and different facilitators, because there are so many different types of light language with the star systems, let alone, your own unique soul's language, I guess. And obviously, if someone, is walking around in the outside world and they come across someone and they're like, oh, there's something about that person I really don't like, they give me an off vibe. How are they going to react to their light language? Is it going to be the same, or is it going to be different because they're pulling a frequency from a star system, or, vice versa? But I think, like you said, it's so important to connect and resonate with those that you are working with on such a deep level, because really you're investing in yourself. That's what you're doing when you're working with a facilitator or a mentor or whatever, like whatever name you want to use. You're investing in yourself. And if you're not connecting to them and you're not getting everything that you are meant to get from the program or the mentorship, whatever, because you're not connected to that person, then that's going to be a problem, right? You need to feel like you resonate.
100%.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story with us, sharing your wisdom with us. I really, really appreciate it. And if people are wanting to work with you and they're wanting to find you, how can they do that?
The best way to find me and my offerings is my website and my YouTube channel. So my website is www.lifeinconfidence.com. So it's LifeinConfidence.com, and on YouTube it's Life in Confidence. So you can experience more of my magic through my full moon trauma clearing ceremonies, which I do online and also at my place in Bondi. I also run workshops in Sydney. I'm about to do one in Adelaide, and then Melbourne, and then Tokyo. And I also work with clients privately in a 3-month container. So if you feel called to work with me privately or to engage in any of my offerings, check out my website first, see if it resonates. If you want to work with me privately, I recommend you watch my webinar, which is on my website, Overcome the Impacts of Childhood Abuse in 3 months. So that would give you an idea if we're a good match to potentially work together. If what I shared with you, my story, the case studies with my clients and the sort of outcomes, if that resonates for you, then that will give you clarity before you book a clarity call with myself.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, Elle. Sending you so much love. Mwah.
Thank you, you too. Well, this is your Earth Side Spirit Guide signing off for the week. If you'd like to know more about how you can work with me, you can follow me on Instagram at l.embers or visit my website lembers.com.